Welcome to the bold analysis. There is something I want to speak about passionately, and this is because I'm also touched with it. On Sunday, William Ruto launched some lecture on the Kenyan media, and according to him, it was part of blame portioning. He blamed the Kenyan media for their coverage of the protests. For the last 1 month, Kenyan media had been covering the protest. And William Ruto made this statement in Bomet that I want us to hear.
I also want to request the media to report responsibly. Reporting, celebrating, encouraging violence, destruction of property, anarchy, mayhem is irresponsible. And if the country goes the wrong direction, there will be nothing to report, and there will be nowhere to report from. So we must all act responsibly.
So, according to the presidency, the coverage of the protest have been glorifying violence and glorifying anarchy. But there is a point, there is a balance. I want to maybe just respond and tell something to the president's handlers on this matter. There is a balance that has to be created. And you also have to understand that it is not a monopoly, it's not, the media is not a government apologist, must not be government sympathizer. In fact, at no instance, if the day the media will go to bed with government, will not have a country. And that is why they say the media is the fourth estate. But this attack was, or rather this lecture came from somewhere, because on Tuesday, a journalist was attacked. K24 journalist Caroline Wanderi, was shot in the foot. If you review that video, you will concur with media personnel that was already a targeted shot. Tomorrow, actually, on Wednesday, the media is supposed to also to protest. Probably we will also protest. It's also a day to protest. Now, so the things that President said there, that the media is glorifying violence and glorifying that anarchy. However, you also have to understand that there are two things. There is something called the public interest. The public interest, and there is the objective. For those days when there are protests, the media is also being driven by numbers. If you're not covering the protest, the public might also withdraw from the screens and say, oh, they're not covering us, they're not covering the protest, so probably they feel what we're doing is wrong, and they might also withdraw. So they also owe some fidelity to the public. So there is that part of the media, the traffic, the traffic margin or the traffic push that the media is also looking for, and brand positioning. The other one is public interest. What is the interest of the public? The interest of the public is those protests. It is what the public, even for us, we do analysis here. Now, if we try to very often do any analysis away from the protest, the numbers can't come through. So there is also the context of public interest. And I think the government really, the president really had his way. And they already choreographed the strategy to ensure that media shivers from covering the protests. In fact, I find that narrative, the president's narrative, I don't appreciate it, or rather, I debunk it by saying this. The same media has been giving government audience press briefings called by the president, where he is saying these young people are anarchists, are causing anarchy. They've been giving equal coverage to what the government is saying and what the Gen Z are saying. But the government has failed to convince the Gen Z their side of the story. I said that in my previous video. So apportioning a blame that how I am covering is wrong is simply just running from the truth. The truth here is the lenses have been covering what government is saying, government response. Even this video, it has been shared. So it is just that there is a trust deficit. And that is why the Gen Z, the government is saying, the media is saying both the government, what the government is saying, what the Gen Z are saying. But there is a trust deficit. Even though I can also not underestimate the fact that there will be some, it's never fair. It can be 50-50. And in fact, the media has to say cover what the protest, what Kenyans are saying most, because that is where the majority is anyway. If anyway, those are the clients. And so, that was created. But today, I felt the effect of that lecture because the coverage today was relatively low. And I think if you ask me, local media covered it probably 40%. I know there was not so much activity to live stream and have a split screen, but 40%. But do you also realize that the absence of media in this space might have created some loophole that was largely used? And we would not be wrong to argue that all this narrative to kick out media from this space was part of the larger script. I want us to look at these scenes. Look at this one here. This is Pipeline. So some protesters had already barricaded the outer ring road, and it's one of the it's one of the route to JKIA. And after they barricaded the road, they engaged the police in some running battle. And not all of them were actually residents of Pipeline. Some of them were coming from the other part, from probably Dandora, and they had just joined. But then after they were dispersed, you can see here government, the security officers now went in the estates. Now splashing that water cannon and firing tear gas in targeting people's houses. Now this is what the media, these are the stories that the media needs to be there to tell. These are the stories that are being suppressed when keep off. So this was in Mlolongo, in Pipeline. I'm told there were other subsequent areas like there was Githurai, and I don't know why. By the way, someone can tell me, why is it that after every protest there should always be something happening in Githurai? Githurai will always be in target, will always be here in the question. But I also paid attention to this. Media was out, and let's listen to what this gentleman is saying.
Thank you so much. Sasa tuko Taj Mall. Tunangojea wase wengine watoke tao. Unao wamefunga barabara yote. Wamefunga barabara yote na hizo magari zao. Uncle Sam, thank you so much. King Lati, thank you so much.
Zoom commander.
Commander ndo huyo hapa. Commander ndo huyo hapa hivi.
Ndio mnatuma muua watu nyinyi. Naomba nini? Wao kama mnajifisha huko.
Wamejifisha kila pahali, hawataki kuonekana. Na imagine hao ni wazazi wetu manzee.
Wewe bila uniform wewe.
Hawa ni wazazi wetu manzee. Acha nijaribu. Na shake juu niko na binoculars. Unadi ndio ndege hawa hapo hivyo. Kwa wapi? Ndege ndio hiyo hapo hivyo. Wana patrol na ndege wakipatiwa directions. Poleni sana juu na shake lakini natumia binoculars na sina stabilizer.
Hamna uniform na
wanaishia.
Unajua nyinyi wakora nyinyi. Iko wapi uniform? Serikali haina uniform.
Wanaishia nikawa wameambiwa huko kwingine kumedoka.
Wanaishia juu kuna bunduki. Senzi wewe. Tutoe mask tukuone.
Hazina number plate. Waone.
Tunakuja huko.
Nikawa wameambiwa huko mbele kumedoka.
Tunakuja. Mbwa nini? Unatuvaliaje mask?
Tukirusha mawe wataanza kurusha tiagas na hatudai tiagas. Wao wengine hapa.
Ana hizo gari. Hakuna nini kuna number plate nikwambie.
Na wote wako na AK47.
Nikwambie nini ndo nani?
We, wase wako JKIA ile saidi ya Mlolongo. Wase wako saidi ya Mlolongo wanaishia huko. Wanaenda saidi ya Mlolongo huko kuna watu.
Wala kama ule uniform wewe ni mwizi.
Nimeambiwa ati wanaenda saidi ya JKIA na ile njia ya Mlolongo juu kuna wasee huko hivyo. Wasee wamejaa huko. Hata sasa tujaribu tuende hiyo side. Wana wanaishia hiyo side. Ndio wengine wameamua kubaki hapa hivi. Gari moja ndio imebaki hapa. Mgani huyo? Mgani ana ni point? Niko rada. Mgani huyo? Huyo uniform huyo. Na jamaa anaambiwa wamenotice niko na binoculars. Lakini wapi hatutishiki. Wala siwezi save msemo yako live yangu kindly screenshot tu alafu hata utapost tu kwa TikTok yako. Currently siwezi save. My hands are both busy. Nimeshikilia binoculars na simu. Thank you so much. Wasa wako concerned. Nitakuwa safe. At Mary, thank you so much. Hao makara wawili hao wenye unaona wamesha notice niko na binoculars. Wameshinda wakini point sana. Wame notice niko na binoculars. Na wazoom. Bena. Kaa nyuma yangu, uniangalilie rado, unajua mimi sioni.
Karabando. Anataka janga hata mimi nakuja live over
3.2. Jaber, thank you so much.
Nakuja kwa ida wote.
That gentleman, there are, plainclothes officers covering the faces and all that, and then they were unleashed in the streets. Unleashed in the streets. The good thing, or rather, maybe I think we also noticed there were some killings, some live bullets, that were also experienced in some parts of Nairobi, I think. But the police conduct, the security officers' conduct today, in the absence of the lenses, it was really questionable. It was questionable. Really questionable. I have some reservations with that. Not so perfect, but I have some reservations with that. In another observation I made is the issue of goons. And these goons were not just in Nairobi. Even in Kisii, there were goons. That government is planning protests. So people are facilitated to go to Nairobi, get to CBD and protest and say we support President Ruto and this and that. So I don't know. Maybe I want to ask you before I interpret the absence of media and pushing out media in the street. What do you think is what do you think will be the extent of it? And I really want to read feedback from those who've been attending protests, if you've attended one. Yeah. I also want to hear from the practitioner and also as a consumer, someone who's following up what's happening in the country, probably while in Europe, in another country. And you've also been experiencing this. What do you think was the impact of media absence in the streets? Because I think it's not a good... the media had asked for some dialogue. I'd seen some calls for dialogue. People saying, we need to dialogue and have this and that. The first thing I'm seeing, there is a gap that is emerging. And that gap is the gap of accountability on protest management. Because without the lenses, people need to appreciate. There's some stories that people could not have known, could not even have been told. I want you to imagine a situation where you cannot know what's happening anywhere in this country. We will not have this protest. How many people do you think would have been killed? How many people would have been killed? So the media is also part of the watchdog. The civil society organizations had already been profiled and, investigation launched. And whether how much money you are receiving, where, about what and what. So the civil society space has also been made, there's some hostility between the administration and the civil society. That hostility was also created between the administration and the media. And so the first aspect that was missing was accountability on protest management. Not so much could be seen actually in this. Then the second aspect, the impact of the absence, is probably amplifying the voices of reason. The voice of reason. And by the way, let me tell you, the reason why government, the Kenya Kwanza, pushed media out was the voice of reason. Let me show you. Do you know, you can be shocked, do you know that Kenya Kwanza has successfully sold the anarchy narrative? You may not agree with me. Do you know they have sold that narrative? And they are really employing every tactic to convince the village folks that what's happening in Nairobi are people who want to remove Ruto from power. Talk to your fellow from your village. Leave alone these fellows in the internet in Nairobi. Leave alone the Twitter battalion. Talk to your fellows back home. I was shocked. Yeah, back in my village. Some people, I also have some caucus people. When you talk, do peer, they say, oh, hawa vijana wanataka kutoa Ruto. So wacha amalize. And that is why, and so the moment the lenses are not, the moment the media are not there, the media cannot get the interviews. Remember the interview in Karatina last week, when someone is saying, why did Ruto leave Musalia? So the voices of what's happening, for example, the Occupy JKA, it was purely on questioning the deal, the PPP deal on upgrading the JKA. So that was one of the factors that was actually going on it. Then the third issue is the probably message awareness, or let me say the reporting penetration of the message to the rest of the country and even the global community. That not quite many of us will follow, will be there. There are quite a number of people that are following from home. But without the media presence, there is a lot of mis and disinformation space that is been created there. And that space has been created so that the protest can be neutralized by the propaganda. Hey, let me tell you, If you follow government bloggers, yeah, I'm telling you, the kind of machinery there. And it is thriving in this issue of suppressing the mainstream media. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my take on it. And I can say that the country cannot glorify. If civil society is out and the media is out, it's not good looking, if I may say this. It's not really good looking, and it had its own repercussions. Probably in this struggle if you talk to the senior folks in this channel, they will tell you, I remember in 2015, during Firimbi operation, when during IBC must go, we used to be told to tunaka katikati, then the opposition nyuma, then police the other side. You know, we come there, we cover. So when we cover the police are not going to fire. But they still used to. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That is my take. I can also read your feedback on what you think about the absence of media. I really took some keen interest in that.